Alright guys, welcome back to Blue Moon Rising TV. I'm joined by Walter and Elliot, and today we're going to be previewing the epic Champions League final encounter between Manchester City and Dortmund. Oh wait, no, it's just a friendly. But we've only had one friendly until now, and we're going to get onto that. And Pep, we want to see what the changes are that he's implementing, so we're all excited to see, even when it's just a friendly. How's it going, guys?
Yes, good, thanks. You?
Yeah, fantastic. Where are you, Elliot? You at home?
No, I'm in a recording studio.
Ah, okay. All right. Elliot's got a job, everyone.
Yeah.
Right, let's get straight into it, guys. The news that's been coming out of the Manchester City camp lately is that Guardiola has installed a fat camp at Manchester City. He's gone full, lieutenant in the army or something, and he's banning players from joining in the games, joining the training sessions if they're overweight. He's banned pizza. He's banned sugary drinks and stuff. What do we make of that, guys? Is he being a bit too authoritarian, or do we like this kind of new regime?
Go on, Walter, I'll let you start.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's a classic by any coach that starts at any football club. The first thing they come in and they do is they actually question the fitness of the players. But I get the feeling that Pep actually got a legitimate reason this time. I mean, I looked at some of our games last season, whether it was against Arsenal, Leicester or Liverpool at home. We were outrun and outfought. I thought we often won games on the back of actually how skillful our players were, rather than running the opposition into the ground and overrunning them at times. So is he being... I mean, there's talk of the pizza after the game as well. I mean, I was looking up online about the best things to actually consume, and I read it in Pep Confidential as well. And you shouldn't be there guzzling pizza and Coca-Cola down your neck a few minutes after you've just played 90 minutes. I mean, the thing is, what it does do is, in Germany, they call it the English week, where they play twice a week. And it's that ability to actually get some good nutrition inside of you that will, number one, prevent injuries, and number two, give you a lot more energy for the next game. There's two windows. Now, what he has done is, straight after, you've got 30 minutes to try and consume something. And then what Pep did at Bayern, and he did at Barcelona, is he got all the players, and he's doing it at the Etihad, to actually come together and have a meal after the game. But in that way, you can control in certain aspects. Number one, it's good for team building. Number two, it's good for actually controlling what your players are taking on board. Yeah. So, I mean, what detail doesn't Pep look at? And he's taken one look at our squad and decided the supply teacher has gone, and the new headmaster is coming in, and he's going to be a lot firmer with the players, and well, rightly so.
Elliot, I hear that you enjoy a cigarette at half-time when you're playing football, so you're not going to be happy about these changes coming in, I imagine.
No, he's bang out of order. You know, I think what the team needs is a couple of pints. You know, there is a pub near the ground, Mary D's.
Mary D's, yeah.
I don't understand why they're not having a few bitters in there. No, God, do you know what? No football. Look, Manchester City are one of the wealthiest clubs in the world, right? Right.
So can afford loads of pizza.
Exactly. So what's the deal? They're not even having... Never mind 2 for Tuesday. Forget it, right? They're all over it. No, deal. They have got nutritionists working within the club who are paid a lot of money. A lot of money goes into research for sports nutrition, right? At any football club it would. If you were at Oldham or Rochdale or wherever it would. But a club like City, you know, hundreds of thousands of pounds are ploughed into that. So how and why they're eating pizza and guzzling, you know, soft drinks and consuming a lot of white sugar and things like that. You know, I mean, look at the state of me and Walter, right? we're
Poster boys
we're
for
fat
this one.
Guys. We're fat. Me and Walter are fat guys, right? We know that if you eat a lot of pizza and sugary drinks, you're gonna get fat. Yeah. So, you know, they know that. They've got a responsibility and they're shirking their responsibility. And I'm glad that Pep's trying to put a lid on it and saying, no way, you know, if you do that, you're out. That's it.
You do get the feeling that under Pellegrini, towards the end of it, it turned into a bit of an old boys club, didn't it?
Yeah,
It just felt as though maybe that little bit of... It just needed somebody to come in like a Pep and just say, right, start from zero. Everyone's got a bit too relaxed around here. It's turning a bit cliquey. And I just think we do need a bit of that strictness. And I think it's like also, coming back to what Walter was saying about the teacher, when a teacher starts at a new school, they always come in and they start strict, and then you can sort of ease off when you've laid down the ground rules, can't you? And I think it's a good way to do it. So one thing that we can look into this as well was that he was saying that certain players weren't training with the first team if they weren't up to scratch in terms of the fitness. Now, we didn't see Sami Nasri play in the first game. We saw all the first team who were around play apart from him. And Sami Nasri has had a reputation of having, dare I say it, a bit of a fat arse at times. And so can we read into that and suggest that perhaps he's one of the players that Pep's singling out?
I think that you can look at, I at some of the pre-season stuff. I watched a few of I've watched some of the training sessions because that's all really we've had to watch so far with the game being called off the other day. So we've all had a quick look at training sessions. I thought Delph looked pretty tubby in one of them, which is unusual. But I thought, around his midriff he looked a bit fat. Yaya's a funny one because he's built in I've said this a million times about Yaya. He's built in a funny old way, and the guy's got a big old butt. It's got a lot going on at the back. I don't.
Junk in that trunk. But can't believe I just said that. It's funny, isn't it? I think Delph's probably been on the Yorkshire Puds, hasn't he, for a couple of months. And I think when players come back, we give them a little bit of a leeway. But I think Pep's going to sort them out good and proper. Okay, so moving on now. You just alluded to it, Elliot, about the match practice. We've only played one game so far. As we know, the game against United was called off. Now, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of chatter in the City community about various things. One saying that, these sort of players shouldn't need match practice. Training's more important. And then, second of all, saying that we seem to have focused too much on the financial side of things by going to China, going too far away, and then having to deal with this. Matches getting abandoned. And we should have just maybe stayed at home and focused on playing against maybe local teams behind closed doors. What do we make of that? Get stuck into either of those points, guys.
Well, I think going to China is just a purely money-making exercise. I was in China in 2008 in Beijing, and it's a strange city in terms... Just before the Olympics. I wasn't competing, I have to say. And what actually happens is, if you get to a high place in Beijing, you think and you can see a lot of the city, you can't actually see. It's just dense. You're just seeing cloud. And it's, when you at the end of the day, it's almost like you smoke 20 or 30 fags. So to actually be running around in those conditions, it's and the heat as well. It's a really strange kind of atmosphere, and I couldn't imagine it being any good for a professional sports player. Last year we went to Australia, we were in Africa. The thing is, we tend to see it as a money-making exercise. And again, alluding back to Pep Confidential, when I was reading that, he was delighted in his first year to get Bayern Munich and to make sure that Bayern Munich were training it was just in the Italian Alps. So because they were there, you got your clean air and they weren't jetting off here, there and everywhere, he was able to quickly sort of stamp his sort of Pep's philosophy, for want of a better word, on the actual team. He said that was absolutely vital. And that's where I think as a club, I think we've let Pep down. I remember seeing Kevin Keegan's first game, and it was against Halifax. And, I couldn't believe at the time we'd managed to pull a manager of the calibre of Kevin Keegan. So it just shows you how far we've moved as a club. But it absolutely 100% money-making exercise. We're going to the States next year. It can't be good for any preparation for any football team whatsoever.
Can I just play devil's advocate for a second? So the other side of the argument is City have just had a 13% stake bought out by a Chinese consortium. So it may well have been part of that deal that City have to go over there. So you could say it's a short-term, long-term thing. I understand and I agree completely. It's not ideal. But just looking at the other side of it, City is a business at the end of the day as well. It's a football team first, but it is a business. And so when these deals are made, sometimes you've got commitments and sometimes you just got to make these little sacrifices. Elliot, what do you think about that? And what do you think about only having one game under our belt so far?
Well, firstly, I think if you lie in bed with big business in the way that City do, then these things are going to happen. And I know, although it will be frustrating for Pep, and it is a really ridiculous situation because it's a long-haul flight to China. And with the time difference, the jet lag's killer. And, it's such a quick turnover for that game. And then the game not happening, then the players being at a loose end. And like you say, Walter, they're training in unfamiliar surroundings can be good. but I don't think Beijing is the right place to train in unfamiliar surroundings, particularly, like you said, with the air pollution and things like that. And also, mentally for the players, with the game having been pulled, it is a little bit kind of, well, what are we doing now? Where are we at now? What's happening? It makes Pep's job harder to keep those players fit and to keep them focused. And you need that straight away, really. It is tricky, moving on to only having played one game in pre-season so far. Of course, we've got the game which takes place tomorrow. But
there's a lot of talk about Dortmund. I think they've played 3 games so far, possibly more. And when they played against United and hammered them, there was a lot of talk about how zippy they looked, how organised. You could just tell that they've had that time together. And this is despite them losing. Obviously they've lost Gundogan to us. And they've lost Mkhitaryan to United and stuff, but they looked really sharp and benefiting from those games. We could be going into the first game of our season with only 3 games under our belt, but Pep has said that he's going to try and organise a game behind closed doors at the CFA. So thankfully he's sort of taking control of the situation a bit there.
I wouldn't worry about that. I don't think that the game against Dortmund is going to be a particularly amazing watch. I don't think, because again, in the way that the last friendly that we played was actually quite a good watch.
Yeah.
But it was because it was very interesting. You saw the team sheet and thought, "Whoa, what's he doing here?" And it was interesting, and you started to see a little bit straight away. And like Stephen said in the video, you started to see a bit of Pep almost straight away, and I think we'll see that again in the Dortmund game. It would have been nice to see that against United.
Let's go into that point then, Elliot. Let's dig a bit deeper into that. What have we learned so far, and what can we expect to see against Dortmund? So far, what have we learned? We've been seeing, I think, players like Angelino. Everyone, obviously, it's just one game, but people are singing his praises, and you can already see that Angelino might be setting himself up, or Guardiola might be setting him up for a position in that squad. And he talked today in his press conference about Fernandinho possibly being able to play at centre-back. This sort of stuff is just it's amazing to hear, and it gets you so excited, doesn't it? And we could see, who knows what we're going to see against Dortmund. Any guesses? Delph at left-back? That's another thing people are saying.
That was another one I saw, Fernandinho is such a brilliant player. I'm glad that Pep's coming straight away, and you knew that that Pellegrini saw a little bit of that in Fernandinho as well, but Pep has obviously seen way more than he saw, and he's willing to start experimenting with him a little bit. And some of the comments that he made about him being a great all-round player were brilliant, because us City fans have seen that. We've seen Fernandinho and gone, this guy's amazing, he's great. He's got it all over the pitch. So to be given that opportunity by Pep, which is what it looks like, will be great. I hope we see a little bit of that in the Dortmund game. Maybe him playing out of position, maybe playing more defensively. I don't know. Delph, again, playing in a more defensive role. Yeah, bring it on, man. Let's mix things up and see what happens. This is what these games are for.
Walter, do you think that Fernandinho would be wasted at centre-back, considering he was our player of the season, pretty much unanimously last season?
Well, I mean, the thing is with Fernandinho is we tend to forget he had to play in a 2-man midfield with Yaya Toure. Now, of all the Yaya Toure... Well, I mean, I love Yaya, but I mean, he's not a 2-man midfield player. Yeah. And you could see Fernandinho had to work the job of 2, possibly 3 players at times, and he still looked good. Yeah. I mean, I think you could drop him back to that centre-half. He did play centre-half for a wee bit last year in a game, and he's like Mascherano. Do you know what I mean? And the other thing is, I was reading on one of Squawker's comments, is that Fernandinho actually won more tackles in the opposition's half than any other player in the Premier League. So he can put a tackle in, as us City fans all know. I mean, when other clubs, their fans ask you about an underrated player at your team, he's the first name on pretty much every City fan who go to the game's lips, because he doesn't get that sort of not even looked at for team of the year. But us City fans are quite happy to let him go under the radar, do his business week in and week out. And he looks fantastic. So if Pep sees him as a centre-back, wonderful. I mean, this is what pre-season's all about. I wouldn't like us to get beat 3-1, 4-1, etc. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. I'd rather us play these games, experiment with these games. And if we get beat, well, it doesn't work, or that it needs fine-tuning or tweaking. And I think Pep's the man to actually come across and do that. We're talking about some of the youngsters as well. And I think when I look at some of those youngsters, yes, they did have a good game. But we're playing in, a pre-season friendly. Humphreys had a good game against Real Madrid, but didn't tend to then start much. I saw Tosin play against Chelsea, and his distribution at the time was awful in that game. I mean, that was his first sort of moment in the limelight. So would I like to see these players as a first choice or even second choice for the rest of the season? I don't think so. I think we still need to do some reinforcements. But as I said, let Pep experiment. It doesn't overly matter at the moment. Let him find out a winning groove, because he will do.
And it's a nice way for us to be able to have a look at some of these players as well that we wouldn't usually see for the rest of the season, knowing that they're probably not going to be playing, knowing that we're probably not going to see Brandon Barker, in a derby against Manchester United, but being able to have a look at him, and Pep being able to have a look at him and show off that side of things a little bit as well. And also, I'd rather see that. I don't want to see the full first team playing in these friendlies because I worry about injuries too much. I don't want to see Aguero starting in a friendly over in Beijing and playing 90 minutes. I just don't want to see it.
I don't think that's going to happen either. I think we'll be seeing it 45 minutes. We'll be seeing probably wholesale changes there. I think that we are going to see one or two of these youth players get properly integrated into the team. And you've got to remember as well, in England we play so many more games than they play. We've got 2 domestic cup competitions, and in most other countries they only have the 1. And we don't have that winter break that they're accustomed to as well. So I think he's going to have to draw on these youth players, and he's going to get them into the team now nice and early, instead of doing what Pellegrini did. I don't want to turn into a slagging match about Pellegrini, but I remember Stephen saying he's a big advocate of the youth, but he really wasn't a fan of that idea in that Chelsea game of throwing all these youth players in together for the first time in such a big spotlight, and then just throwing them to the wolves basically. And because you've got to ease them in together, you've got to give them some match experience, and then when they do have to play these big games, well, they'll be a bit more comfortable together. So
the only one that really stood out for me, and most City fans watching the one game that we've been able to see, is
Willie Caballero. Without a hint of irony, Willie Caballero was fantastic against Bayern.
He was awesome. That game could have finished. That game could have finished 4-0. I mean, there were 3 stops that he made in that first half that were incredible. The guys, I love Caballero. He's great. Do you know what I think it is? Just quickly with Caballero, if he makes the first save, he's on fire. That's it. Yeah. If he duffs the first save of the game and it goes in, we're having a nightmare. But he's great, Caballero. I'd like to keep hold of him, really. I don't think we will.
I wouldn't be surprised if he sticks around now, to be honest. I don't know.
Do you reckon?
I think it's a 50-50, whereas before I think it was almost a cert that he was going. And now I think he's sort of giving himself maybe a chance, because he played really well, and I think there's going to be a lot of confidence players at City who are going to be given that confidence by Pep Guardiola.
Yes,
and I think we could see a lot of rejuvenation in a lot of these players.
Sterling.
Yes, exactly. Every City fan wants Raheem Sterling to get his confidence back. He needs it, and all of you have said at various points over the season, he just needs to be given that chance and given that confidence, put an arm around him, kick up the arse if necessary, and we'll see a new Raheem. Right, guys, that's the end of our Dortmund preview. Thanks very much for joining us. Lots to go over there. We know we're all so excited about what we're going to see. Who knows what we're going to see? We tried second-guessing it, but, we probably completely messed it up. Anyway, make sure you follow us for this match. We're going to be doing a live thing before it. We're going to be doing a reaction afterwards. We'll be all over Twitter and all that. Enjoy the game. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you in a little bit.